Hello and thank you for following my video. Today I want to do a video about color adjustment using the software Krita as usual. And for this I opened on my session 4 documents and we will see how to manage contrast, to manage color balance, and also how to add mood or add some aesthetic to some piece. So let's start with the contrast, and for this I will open this piece. It's an artwork before doing the color adjustment. I will show you probably now on screen the final version. And you can see that during the process, probably the hours of coloring the pencil artwork, I sort of get used to this gray color. So I had some problem with the contrast and I had to solve it with a final color adjustment. So here is how I proceed in this case. So you can already see that I have a group here with all the steps where I put my layers. And I could use, for example, filter layers. You know, the little arrows here, you click, you use filter layers, and you create some sort of non-destructive here on adjust level sort of contrast. But you can't hear it, but my CPU of my computer starts screaming a lot because this type of level is very resource intensive. It has, of course, a lot of benefits. So if I want to continue to edit under my stack of layer, it's non-destructive. I can still sort of paint, but you see there is a huge lag. And as soon as I put more than 2 or 3 layers like this, it's just impossible to manage. So I came up with another strategy. I will just delete everything like that. And when I do my color adjustment, I do this in a destructive way at the end of the artwork. So what I usually do is I select all the pixels of the artwork. It's often with a Ctrl A to get all the border around the artwork selected. Then I press Ctrl Shift C to copy everything visible on the canvas. It's like a very, I think it's called the projection. So it's like all the layers stacked together and you copy them, and then Ctrl V and I paste that. And what I'll get is a layer containing exactly my picture. So yes, if I turn off and on, there is no difference, but this is just the artwork flat. And I rename it to Adjustment. And then I can do a lot of adjustment about the color on it and even turn it off and on to compare with the previous version. And this is not really resource intensive, but it has the big inconvenience to be destructive. So if I want to fix something back on the layer stack, I have to redo the color adjustment. But you will see color adjustment is not that long, so maybe it's worth doing this type of thing. So now I have my setup with my projection copied on the top of the layer stack. I can start to duplicate it. So I can use this type of icon here on the bottom of the layer stack, or I can also press Ctrl G on the keyboard and it will duplicate. You can see now copy of adjustment. And I will do that every time just to compare with the previous version. It will make some sense really soon. Then I will deselect this selection around the canvas and I will start to try to fix the contrast. So as I said, when you have a problem of contrast like that, it's really difficult to figure what is wrong, because your eyes get used to it. If you probably leave the computer for 1 hour or 2, or if you take a night on it on something, you might come back the day after and see all this issue. But if you just want to finish a piece and post it online or give it to a printer, you need to come with another strategy. And the best tool for this will be the histogram. So it's a Docker, and you can find it going to the settings, Docker, and here by alphabetical histogram. And you will get this type of Docker, so it might appear here on the sidebar or everywhere. I just undock it and put it here in large so you can see it on the video. And this is an alternative representation of your picture. It's a symbolic representation with a graphical aspect, and you have all your channel, the green one, the red one, and the blue one, because I do a RGB picture. And you can see here from this side that is the dark, and all the shadow, and all the middle tone, and all the light, and all the highlight. So we have a sort of column here that counts when a color is used and in what type of amount. So we know that we have a lot of, it's not dark, it's middle blue here that are used, and mixed probably with middle green, and this is of course all this type of colors. You can see that if I paint some dark stroke of colors randomly, the stroke will appear here. So this is a very convenient tool because it gives you another feedback of what happened on your canvas. And what will be interesting now is to see how this artwork doesn't use at all the possible shadow or darkness possible. It uses also very badly all the light possible available. The red has a little spike, and this is probably this little lightning here and there. So what I will do is I will call a filter to fix it. So the first one I recommend for fixing contrast is the levels, Control L. This one, if you use it as a filters and not as before I show as a filter layers, you will get a tiny histogram of the lightness of the picture. So it's very convenient because now you can adjust and try to get this rich darkness here and adapt a bit the highlight also, and get a sort of middle value, maybe this way. And you get also a little preview on and off. And this little preview is something you don't have when you use filter layers. So here you can really see that the result before was a bit grayish. So I will accept this and press OK. And now, even with my setup of copy adjustment and adjustment, I can still turn it off and on and use the opacity if I want to make the effect more subtle or not. And this is a sort of extra protection or extra undo that I like when I do my color adjustment. Something I want to show you is that you can get exactly the same effect using the curve. So the curve adjustment tool, you press Ctrl M to get them. And this one proposes two modes for enhancing your contrast. You have the default one, that is all the channel RGB here, and you have the lightness. So if you change the lightness, you have here all your dark pixel and all here your white and bright pixel. So it works a bit like the levels. You can push here to get darker, you'll see, and here to get the high value. And this is exactly the same result than you can get with the levels, except that here you maybe have a little bit more control on the middle value. You can push like this if you want something brighter, or like this if you want something darker. So for example, I can tell that this could be good with this type of contrast. I will reset to show you now the RGB. So the RGB one has something particular. If you use this, you will get something that is more burned. So all the dark value will get a lot more saturation, and if you do the same with the highlight will look a bit totally burnt. And sometimes this is really good to know, because sometimes a piece can be grayish and this can give an extra little pop about the colors. So this is really convenient to have both. For this piece, what I will do is I will keep the RGB for the highlight, because I want a lot of saturation on my highlight, and I will put here a pin at the middle. So if you are not comfortable with editing the curve, just a little reminder, click and you add a node on it, and if you click and drag outside the node disappears. And you have a minimum of 2 nodes, the black one that will be always flat here, and the white one that will be always flat here. So I will reposition them. I will put here a node at the center. You can place it really at the center, 128, 128, and then I will bend this one, so I can get this highlight and this saturation at the same time. I'm also used it to make another node here, just for this to behave correctly here, because you can tell that if I remove it, this curve will influence also this curve. So if I want this one to be unchanged, I have to put another one here, this way. And I want to get now the darkness of this lightness settings, because I don't want saturated shadow, I just want the shadow going to black. So I'm doing the same, and it looks good. I'm putting another one at the center. For the lightness, this is a sort of 0 to 100%, so the center is 50 and 50. And here again, I will try to make another node really near, so this line really behave. So the middle value of the picture are now a bit dark, but I prefer to edit them in another pass. So I can check with preview. Yes, this is the effect I want. And I press OK. Now I will continue to duplicate my layer, and then I will call again the color adjustment curve with Ctrl M, and I will just give a little push here on the middle gray so I can get more light. And then you can see that now my histogram starts in the dark and get all the value here, and yeah, there is a bit more life on the highlight. So I think it's correct for me for this type of artwork. It can be improved for sure, but this gives you an idea about how you can get some contrast and how you can use the tools of Krita to get more contrast on your piece. When I like the result, I just take the top layers and I will just press Ctrl E on the keyboard to merge with the layer below. And I will do that until I reach the adjustment layer. So I keep only one layer and then I can compare with before and after. And this is what will be my correction. So let's move to the second chapter, and it will be about color balance now. So for the second part about the color balance, I want to open this little sketch. Yes, it was just a pencil sketch on my sketchbook, and I quickly put some painting, and I unfortunately flattened the artwork. So yes, I only have that on the source, and it was just a quick coloring, so the colors are a bit off. And this is really interesting because, as you can see on the eye, the color is like a sort of teal or greeny. And it's interesting to see how sometimes you can paint and think, oh, this is right. Maybe it gives the right mood. And then you can come back later and say, oh no, this is way too greenish or not as I wanted. So here is how to make some color balance. Of course, you can't rely on the photographic tools because this is a painting, so we don't have a single gray point and a sort of color picker to do some auto balance on all the piece. It wouldn't make sense at all. So we will need to tweak the colors directly. So to get an idea about what colors is dominant, we can for sure look at our histogram and see that we have a lot of green on the dark part, a spike on the red, but that's nothing new about what we already know by watching this type of picture. So I will close the histogram, and what I will do is just start to duplicate my artwork. I will write adjustment as usual, start to duplicate it again, and then I will call the curve with Ctrl M. And if I see that there is a dominance of green, it's because I started to look at an object that is supposed to be white. It could be also the shirt here, where I have a lot of purple, so you see that my shading wasn't consistent. But what I want on this artwork is now to recover some sort of white eyes and not this greeny eye. So I will go for this on the green channel here, and I will just try to locate on this part of the curve the bright part and lower it a bit so I can get more neutral gray. And this is hard to spot because it turns all the artwork in magenta. And this is because the inverse of green will be always magenta. It's like taking the two other channels and making a sort of addition. So you have magenta for the green. For the blue you will get yellow and then blue on this side. And for the red, you will get cyan and red on this side. So this is good to consider when you switch to the red, green or blue channel. It's more like if you switch to the red cyan channel or green and magenta channel and blue and yellow channel. So let's go back to the green and magenta channel, because I want to inject some bit magenta here, and solidify here the curve. So now if I check the preview, you see that I get rid here of the little gloomy green highlight that I wanted to get rid of. And this was just with adjusting a little bit this curve. I will just show you another method, because there is another filter that can be maybe simpler for you. It's the color balance filter, and it's still on the filter adjust. So the color balance, or Control B. And here you will get a part reserved for the shadow of your picture, the midtones, and the highlight. And you will get directly the two colors, so red versus cyan, magenta versus green, yellow versus blue. So it might be a bit more intuitive for you. So here, going to the highlight, and I'm going from the green that is in excident, and I go back to magenta. And I will press preview, and I get very close result of what we get before. All in all, I prefer to work with curves, sometimes because I feel that I have a bit more control with defining where are the highlight, the midtone, and the shadow. But when I want to go very quick, or when I want to get something more intuitive, I use the color balance. So now you know that they can do the same, but it's more a color graphical user interface that is different. So while we are on this color balance, I want to also get not so blue background, and I will inject a bit of yellow in. Just a little bit, and maybe a bit of red. And on the midtone, I don't want all this green. So I try to warm up just a little bit the picture, but it doesn't work because this picture also has a problem of contrast. So I will try to fix that with the curve. I will go to the lightness, and I will try to root the dark just a bit more. Maybe like that. And so I can see that, yes, I tried to make the color a bit more neutral or less greenish or bluish this time. And that will lead us to the third part. And the third part will be about mood and ambient, and how to add this extra artistic color effect on your artwork. Maybe my favorite part of this tutorial. So for the last part of this tutorial, we will see how to use these tools for injecting some type of interesting colors that will give an extra ambient or an extra mood to our piece. And this will be a bit of art direction, and this is my favorite part of the process, of course. So when you have an artwork that has a contrast that you find interesting, and that has not a dominant color made by accident, you might want to add a dominant color for artistic reason this time. And we already saw that the curve here are very capable for this. So for example here, if we want, we can go to the blue channel and ask our shadow to be very bluish, while our highlight to be a bit yellowish. Then we can go to red and boost a bit the red on the highlight, and just ask for the shadow to keep the same. And we'll get a contrast of orange and a bit of blue. but it's not ideal. It works, and if you take a little care, you can do it this way. You can also do it with the color balance filter. But my favorite way to do it is to duplicate it and to use a tool that is delivered with the Windows version and that you can install in the Linux version. It's the Gimmick Qt filters. So it opens Gimmick here, and you have access then to all the filters, and there is like more than 400 of them here. If you are familiar with my channel, you know that I really like this tool, so you probably already have it installed. If not, I encourage you to install it. Sorry for Mac user, I know that they can't get it. It's not compatible with Mac so far, so but if you don't have the same interface when you launch Gimmick than me, just go on the setting. You can get the preview on the right side here. This is what I use, and you can get also a dark theme here. So I think it blends better with Krita this way. I also get a lot of other filters that come from internet, because I have the checkbox here, internet, and I clicked on this little refresh button, and this downloads all the latest filters from the community directly. So one of the filters I wanted to show you is in colors, and this is the color preset. And this little filter, I should say very big filters because I'm a very big fan of the color preset, has hundreds of color preset settings. So I really like the one provided by the forum Pixels US here. And you can see, for example, modern film that has this type of color preset with more orange highlight and more bluish shadow. If you want to compare in Gimmick with the previous version, you just have to right click on the preview. And you can see before and after, before and after. So the color preset comes with also this very useful sliders. It's strength, and you can do some variation here. And to see the color preset going more stronger or less stronger on this picture. You have also the basic adjustment, brightness, contrast, gamma, and hue for the switching the color that I never use, the saturation, and this option that is very, very cool, that is normalist color, and you can ask the filters to make some smart decision before applying the color preset or after applying the color preset. So it's pre-normalize or post-normalize. And if you click on post-normalize, you will get some extra little auto contrast. I did the contrast before manually on this tutorial, so the filters is just agree with my contrast, so there is nothing to do. But this sometimes can sort of do an auto contrast for you, and this is very useful. So here on the top you have a little arrow to do the reset, and I want to show you in other some of my favorite. So I have, for example, in this very long list, it's called the nostalgic. It's here, and you see it has a very beautiful preset of dark violet, blue, and soft green that make it ideal for this piece, in my opinion. Maybe just a little bit less, like this, maybe a bit of saturation for the skin tone. And yes, it totally blends all the color together and make the piece more consistent. And if you see my webcomic Pepper and Carrot, you can see that sometimes I use that type of preset on full scene just to give a special mood to the scene. I'm thinking right now to the scene where Carrot comes to the school where Pepper is a child. It's a flashback scene, and to symbolize that the flashback, the old time, I used this type of preset on all an episode. And I used the color adjustment very strongly. So I will show you another example. The super warm. Or I don't remember exactly where, but small HD movie look, I think. And yes, that was some good one with some movie aspect, very contrasted, and the color palette and the color palette reduced. But for this example, I will just keep other, and I will keep the nostalgic one. That is my best one for this type of artwork. With this setting, and I will ask post normalize. Yes, that will get this little extra boost of contrast. And then I will press OK. So I can see still, because I have a copy here, if my result is too strong, I can still lower a bit the opacity. I will probably keep that at 85%. And then another method I have, and this one is in Krita, is just to create a new paint layer, empty, and you pick one of the dominant color of the light. So here, for example, it's this green, and you press Shift Backspace on the keyboard. So the backspace key is just above the Enter key. Sorry if I don't pronunciate it correctly. I will try to write a little label on the screen. And I switch this, this new paint layer on the top to the HSY here, color. So I check edit here. So it is on my favorite. And if I press it, it will switch all the color to this highlight. And this is not what I want, but just what I want is to keep like 15% or sometimes 10% or 9%. And this will just unify all the color together. So you can give a nice overall dominant color this way to your artwork. And it works really nicely. And one of the great things with this type of full color red layer is if you want to keep tweaking the color, you can still press Ctrl U here to get the HSV, HSL adjustment and just modify the color a bit. And you can see in real time how this can adapt. So here I'm trying something a little bit more greeny yellow, yes. This is, and that might just blend all the color together better. So anyway, this is how I do the color preset things. And now I will show you on the last example I have on my desk, how this can be interesting in some other scenario. So I'll start to be quick on these last two examples. And the first one will be about a comic page. And this is very important because I'm using a lot this type of color adjustment on the comic to unify the scene. And this page was a bit specific for this color adjustment because this is a step of this page coloring. You can see that I have my inking here, flat color, shading, as you saw on the channel already. And then I made for the real comics all the night colors as color adjustment, and this was a very good idea because I could get the skin colors of each characters consistent even if all the color went to blue. That's because, yes, I kept an adjustment layer on the top and then sent it back to gimmick, and you can see that on the color preset, I reset and I go back to other, you will get some very interesting one like the blue mono that already works really well for doing this type of scene. So all you have to do is to use this type of color preset as they are, and you get a sort of good base for your night scene. You just have to lower a bit the opacity, and if you want to make it a bit darker, just turn this type of layer as multiply. Oh no. Yeah, we'll keep at color. Multiply, I thought it was a good idea for the quick demo to do a quick darken, but maybe I will have to select and copy another projection. Ctrl V here. This is a patch I did long time ago. I don't remember exactly the process, but yes, maybe this way. And then I probably did a boost on the saturation. So this is the occasion to see a filter that I haven't introduced yet. This is a cross-channel adjustment curve, a very cool filter in Krita. And what you get also the lightness here, from dark to bright to highlight. This is common, but here you have the saturation, and you can make a negative saturation, so going to gray here, or going to full color here. So what I want is to keep the shadow dark and not saturated. I don't want shadow that are like saturated blue, and I don't want highlight to be also saturated. I just want the core middle value to be saturated a bit more. So I can just make a bell here this way, and you will see that if I don't push it too much, I get this type of effect of extra saturation. And then I think I remember well, but for the comic, I just created a color dodge layer on the top, and I painted the highlight this way. So select, for example, here an airbrush, and then subtly I made this type of effect for each panel. I do it very quick way, so this is not really clean, but just for you to get an idea. And then I worked on all the highlight, like the candle this way, and this scene probably was on 3 pages, but it was really good to get a process like this. It simplified a lot the skin tone and getting the clothes color and everything consistent on the scene. The last document of this video is about this central portrait in black and white. And this is just to illustrate that this color manipulation, of course, does really good result on black and white. So I already have my adjustment on the top here ready because I want to save time on the video. And what I do is just I jump to gimmick and go to the color preset. I like to keep the category others because I think I'm getting more usage than the other one. And then I just explore tiny bit them. So you can use the key on your keyboard, the arrows key up and down, and just explore a bit until you find one that you find it interesting. There is also a sort of experimental dimension and happy accident to this type of process. So for example, I like this one, Faded. It has a very nice yellowish, but at the same time aqua blue sort of colors. So I think I will use that, and normally this color may be post. So yeah, I keep very strong contrast. So I press OK. This is very quick to compute. And sometimes if the value of your artwork are changed and you want only the color, you can also just switch this layer to only color here. And this will preserve all your work on the value, and you will get this extra little push on the color. So maybe I will reduce now just to make it subtle, because yeah, making any effect a bit too strong and it's never working. And I think the one I posted online was really near to this one now. So, thank you for watching. I hope you learned something during this video. I'm not an expert about color adjustment, and this video is not telling the truth about it. I'm just trying to share my recipe and trying to share my tips and tricks and the experience I took with the years. So if you have observation or something that can help others, feel free also to add it in the comments. That can be very useful. So see you next time for the next video, and take care of yourself. Bye bye.